Chapter 65, Resealing Geto. Suguru, you still can't sleep? Gojo asked as Geto shifted in bed for what felt like the 100th time. You're awake too, Geto pointed out. I'm seasick from all your tossing and turning. Sorry, Geto sighed. Nothing I'm doing is helping you relax. Feeding you didn't work. Gojo slid an arm around him and placed his palm on Geto's stomach. Geto laughed softly. Fucking you didn't work either? Gojo's hand wandered lower to grab his ass. Geto smacked his hand away. I don't know. Geto's voice trailed off and was swallowed by the darkness. They lay in silence, not wanting to voice what was weighing heavily on their minds. Tomorrow, Geto had a test, and after tomorrow, nothing would be the same. Gojo and Geto followed Yaga down the dim hallways of the Jujutsu administration's headquarters. Geto hadn't worn his school uniform in months, and he hadn't gained enough weight back to fill it in. He was uncomfortable and felt swallowed up by the thick fabric and second layer of underclothes. They trailed behind Yaga and headed downstairs to the ground floor, referred to as the dungeons. It was where the special training and safety chambers were situated. The stone hallways of the basement felt ominous and oppressive. A damp chill clung to the stone walls. The air was stale and still. Their footsteps echoed loudly as they made their way to a chamber at the end of the corridor. The cavernous room was completely dark until Yaga flipped a switch, and the dim glow of electric lamps illuminated the red walls lined with gold fabric. Gojo had to stop himself from reaching for Geto's hand as they waited near the entrance for further instructions from Yaga. He could see that Geto's face was pale and sweat beads had popped up on his temples. He caught his eye and tried to give him a reassuring smile. You got this, he said softly. Geto nodded and tried to return the smile. After Yaga finished reinforcing the chamber with a barrier, he had Geto remove his uniform jacket. Geto held out his forearms for him to inspect the talismans that he was sealed with. Yaga ran his finger over the tear in the one on his left arm, the one Geto managed to damage during a terrifying nightmare. The parchment had resealed itself back onto Geto's skin, but underneath, a patch of scar tissue remained. Yaga looked at Geto curiously, but he didn't explain. The three of them stood in the middle of the chamber. Yaga turned to Geto and eyed him closely. He definitely looked stronger now and not cowering and timid like when he last saw him. I'm going to attempt the talisman removal. As the edges started to lift, you're going to feel your cursed energy start to return. The more the seal comes off, the more energy you'll feel. It's best to gain control right from the beginning so it doesn't overwhelm you, he advised. Geto nodded. Gojo, Yaga instructed. Be ready in case. He'll be fine, Gojo interrupted. Just be ready, Gojo, Yaga said. Geto held out his left arm, closed his eyes for a moment and took a deep breath. When he reopened his eyes, Yaga held his right palm over the talisman. The red and black ink sigils on the parchment began to glow, and the first edge started to curl up. Geto felt a faint buzz in his body. He tried to tamper it down, but he heard the soft, teary voice of a child. Suguru? He got distracted and wasn't ready as more of the parchment lifted. The buzzing in his body grew stronger. Another voice spoke out. He's awake. It was the angry whisper of an old woman. Geto, concentrate, Yaga warned. Geto wasn't focusing on containing his cursed energy. He was listening to the voices that were coming alive. His hands froze midair. Suguru? He's awake. He's back. How dare you? Let me go. Can he hear us now? They were the voices of the cursed spirits that Geto had subjugated and contained inside him. The voices were angry, accusatory, threatening, mournful, enraged. They were becoming louder and more menacing as the parchment on Geto's arm released itself. Geto still hadn't controlled his cursed energy, and the air around him thickened. Gojo was watching Geto's face closely and could see that something was wrong. He noticed the change in the atmosphere immediately. He didn't make a move yet. Maybe Geto would still be able to gather himself. "Suguru, focus," Gojo called out. Geto tried to ignore the growing chorus of voices in his head and focus on gathering the cursed energy that was coursing through his body in painful waves. He heard Gojo's voice, but it became part of the cacophony that was ringing in his ears. More cursed spirits discovered that they could be heard again, and an ugly ensemble of voices began wailing and screaming. Geto held his hands over his ears, even though the noise was coming from inside him. "Suguru!" Gojo saw the veins in Geto's temples and neck pulse with dark energy. It started to leak off him in thick tendrils. Black shadows formed around him. The parchment on his left arm was only halfway off. "Stop!" Geto bellowed. He dropped to his knees, hands still over his ears. He was feeling everything the subjugated curses had ever felt when they were still human. Every injury, sorrow, fear, hunger, hate, desperation, loss, loneliness. He could only see black now as a cursed energy pumping through his body flooded his senses. He screamed. Gojo lunged at Geto and tried to hold his arm in place as Yaga kneeled over them and attempted to reseal the talisman. Geto began to blindly fight back, disoriented by the noise and buzz in his body. "Gojo, hold him still!" Yaga lost his grip on Geto and the talisman continued to peel off. "Suguru, it's me, damn it!" Gojo screamed as he threw himself over Geto and flattened him underneath his body, forcing his left arm out in front of him and pinning it to the ground. The cursed energy pouring off Geto's body stung him. He heard the air around them crackle. "Now, Yaga!" Gojo yelled. Yaga resealed the talisman. The red and black ink glowed brightly and dimmed as it resealed itself onto Geto. The cursed energy whooshed as it was sucked out of the air and absorbed back into Geto's body. Geto went limp as the cursed spirits were silenced again. "That was close," Yaga said. "Too damn close." Gojo rolled off Geto and turned him onto his back. They were both breathless. Geto's face was damp with sweat, eyes unfocused. Gojo lifted him up and held him. He could feel Geto's heartbeat hammering through the back of his ribs. "Suguru," Gojo called to him. Geto didn't answer. His head lolled around Gojo's shoulder, sweaty strands of hair framing his face. Gojo placed a palm flat on Geto's sternum to ground him. Geto's eyes had the dazed and hollow look of someone who nearly drowned. "Suguru, I'm here. You're okay. I've got you." Gojo rubbed his palm across Geto's chest. Yaga stood nearby, catching his own breath, wiping cold sweat off his forehead. His eyes settled on the pair in the center of the room. Gojo kneeling, holding Geto as if he might vanish if he let go. Geto was limp, but conscious and breathing. "Don't move him yet," Yaga advised. "Suguru, talk to me," Gojo pleaded. Geto flinched at the sound of his name. He wrapped his fingers around Gojo's wrist. "Satoru?" His voice was hoarse, like someone waking from a nightmare. Gojo touched his forehead to Geto's temple. Relief crashed through him. Geto blinked slowly. His throat tightened as he tried to speak. "I couldn't. So loud." He swallowed hard. "Hurts." "I know." Gojo's voice was quiet but firm. "It's over. I've got you." Yaga observed the two of them with a weary understanding. He didn't interrupt. They'd avoided disaster. For now.